Good evening and welcome to EvilGinger Tuesdays, where I hold forth from in front of the shelves of shame about wargaming and things Evil Ginger. Tonight I haven't got much of a plan, largely because I have been running around and somewhat distracted by other things, and so I'm going to rely on you to tell me what I'm going to talk about. Actually, I do have a plan because I've been looking at projects that I've been doing and trying to reorganize the workshop a little bit, to the point that the stuff immediately behind me is going to change by the next episode, if not earlier. I'm going to dig some stuff out, find another home for it, put something a bit more photogenic behind me. Can't get rid of all of it, but there's stuff behind me that really doesn't need to be there, and I've got space to put it elsewhere. I just need space to shift and maneuver. But hopefully, as we're getting Igor round on Sunday, there'll be less stuff in this place to organise. That's an organisational note. Beyond the organisation, let's have a chat about something wargamey. Now, I have been preparing a demo set for Books and Banter. I've already done one warband for Frostgrave, and that's enough to do a demo game with, especially when I've got some monsters to go with it and some scenery, which I'm also working on, this being a part of the scenery. Not done much on that since I showed it to you previously, but I'm waiting more pieces and bases so I can expand on that more further. I have started a second warband because Frostgrave is a PvP war game, though it can be played PvE, and these are pretty much at the point where they need varnishing. This is an archer for the second warband. This is the wizard for the second warband. So all I need to do with her is just varnish her. And there are the four there's the apprentice, who needs a little bit of tiny more work on him, belt buckles and that sort of thing, and some metallics, and the three other paid for soldiers, who again need a tiny bit of work on them, just to make sure I've not missed anything, and then they need varnishing and basing. Crossbowmen, these I need to dig the shield out for. Not sure what style of shield I'm going to be using, but we will have to see. As I say, a little bit more to do on those, mostly work around the scabbards and that sort of thing before they're varnished and playable. And here's the last soldier. The free soldiers are on their way, and will be made out of a sprue of Frostgrave Soldier 1s, which I ordered from the sprue shop, but he's on its way in. The Dwarven warband is also waiting for the 4 free soldiers, though I did do an expansion figure for that of a Dwarven Knight, based off heavy infantry body and a few bits and pieces from the spares box, because I didn't actually have 2 arms, so I stole one from a demon that I had left over. Those are underway. Now, I also want to talk to you a bit about a stalled project. Now, a long time ago, before the dreaded lockdown, I started a project called the Plastic Ducks Project. Now, this was inspired by a horrible accident that happened at Spirit Games, where Phil, bless him, dropped one of the boxes of the metal Dux Britannicum figures that I had, and they needed repairing. And to be honest, I was that fed up with this and upset that they're still sitting in their boxes waiting to be repairing. To add insult to injury, I managed to drop a couple more boxes of them, and these were the figures that were used in the demo games and playtesting, which I was involved with Dux Britannicum by 2 fat lardies. I'd show you the rule set but unfortunately the rule set books are buried in amongst the various stuff in his house, and again, Sunday will be the start of me organising that so I can actually show things like that off. But sorting through the place today, I dug out some of the early plastic figures that I did for it, and they never got past the shiny stage, so forgive them if they catch the light. But we have built out of Gripping Beasts late Roman infantry back, some lights with a rather simplified like Romanized shield pattern. That's vaguely based on a late Roman design, but it's been modified to make it a little bit simpler. He's one of the sort of average soldiers, and he's very Romanized. I've got 3 Roman factions on the go. I've got South British, which these are. I've got North British, which are based round sort of northern England and the Wall area, and I've got West British, which I only have a very basic layout for, which are the Welsh, effectively. I will probably finish those off by putting quite a few of the more recent Gripping Beast Welsh troops in there. And of course, then there are the Raiders factions. Again, some of these guys have got helmets, they've got shields. They're classic late Roman Limitates style infantry. In addition to those, we have the Levy. This again is another Gripping Beast model, but this time it's a Gripping Beast Dark Age spearmen, who are fairly generic people in trousers, but I've given him a Roman shield just to give him a bit more a Roman look to him. Here's another Levy. Again, this time he's got a round shield. Again, a Gripping Beast Dark Ages spearman. And you've got people like this gentleman, who are very Roman, but are wearing the classic Panamanian cap. Got one of those myself and really should have worn it for this evening. Now he's in mail, and he's one of the more elite troops. Possibly one of the leaders, I can't remember. I would have to dig everybody out. Now this guy is, again, one of the more elite troops. I've got better at painting shields since I did these, so I may do a slight retouch, but we have him there. Now, as I say, there are an awful lot of these models here. There's a whole box here, and I have boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes, and I tilt it so you can see it, but as you can see, it isn't actually a very good idea tilting these figures because they slide round. They're on pennies, and are meant to give the look of a compacted shield wall, which the British do in the rule set and the Saxons don't. It's a lovely set of rules built around a campaign system wherein you're trying to you're either playing a Roman king, a sub-Roman king, Romano British king, with a tiny kingdom of the one of the little fragmentary kingdoms that formed immediately after the power of Rome fell in Britain, and or you're playing a Saxon or continental warband who are basically trying to take over the kingdom. The object of them is to conquer provinces, to gain their freedom from their suzerains on the continent, and basically build a land kingdom. And the game ends when either the would-be invader is defeated and his attempt to gain a kingdom of the native British is defeated, or the invaders, the Saxons, the Angles take over the Roman kingdom and make it their own. There were 2 sets of rules to the game. First of which was the main rule book, which beautifully done with a Roman cavalryman's helmet on the front, and the other one, which is designed as a part that they go together, is covers the Picts, the Scots, the Irish, the peripheral natives of this island, and the big island next to us. So, and they have their own tactics, their own strategies, and again can be played in a multi-faction game against each other. The original plan was to play multiple armies at the same time with multiple people playing them. When I get this lot finished, which I am intending to, I will probably be resurrecting that game concept and taking it down to Books and Banter and playing it down there. And as I say, there'll be 5 or 6 players who will be more than welcome to join in the game as one of the various groups, and I will referee. Not that I can remember the rules. Being a playtester, I get very woolly about exactly what the current rule is, because I remember all of the playtest rules and have at least a couple of copies of the playtest sets that I ran through with the metal figures back in the day to work out how they would work best. As I say, they're by 2 fat lardies, and they are utterly my favourite set of rules out there, even in front of my very beloved Through the Mud and the Blood, which was my introduction to World War I gaming, which I had considered a little bit beyond the pale because of all the things that one learns at school about World War I, and which are not entirely true. But World War I and Through the Mud and the Blood will be something that I will be again revisiting, and I will be talking about probably in another stream. But on the EvilGinger side, we are well in the middle of changing over completely to being EvilGinger Miniatures Limited, setting up all the financial background stuff and things like that, swapping the PayPal so it goes into that account rather than things like that. I'm also working on improving this YouTube channel. I'll be getting a camera that goes off side, and so I can swing it around and you can see what's going on a bit better, rather than just using the laptop camera, which I'm using at the moment, which is over here. See, look, you can see my finger. So that's the laptop camera for now. Immediately behind me, there is a load of stuff. And this has been charitably decided as junk. It's not junk, it's just stuff that I need to sort through and I haven't had a chance to over the years, and it got sort of stuffed on shelves. Now this stuff up here, particularly, is mostly wargaming related, and these boxes, these fire boxes, are my World War II naval ships from Nav War in 1300, which I bought from Spirit Games years and years and years ago, and I will have to, when I've got some space, open up and flash in front of you, because I have a lot of them. And again, it's another game I want to get out and play, or toys I want to play with, and which I would introduce to other people so they could enjoy the fun, because naval wargaming is jolly fun, as I discovered when I was introduced to it by young Philip of Spirit Games. Bad for the knees if you use a bigger scale, because you have to crawl down on your hands and knees on with those ships. But these are 1/3000, and they can be played on the tabletop like a proper war game. But this stuff here is just bags and filing and stuff that I need to sort out, and they will go and be found another home. I think I'm looking at their other home. It's directly in front of me over there, where there are more of these bloody great big boxes. And again, this should be sorted through because that's a player character. Leave that not as the character sheet. And there's, what on earth are these? Let's have an explore, shall we? I can actually get stuff off here without pulling everything down on my head, which is aha. these are Wargames magazines of some antiquity and a army list. So I'll dig those out properly. I don't think I can get them out without dropping things on my head. You have to sort of disassemble it from the top, I think. But that's the lower part of that is going, and the upper part of it is going to be probably made a bit more pretty. I might move the boxes with the ships down to that level. Over here is basically more junk, toys, tools and things, which are, again, don't need actually to be on shelves. Now this I haven't dragged out for ages, and yeah, they need sorting out. They're very, very, very dusty. They're first edition Malifaux figures, and I loved them dearly at the time, but they could really, really do with some love. And these are the Malifaux cards, again, very dusty. It's what comes if you put stuff in trays and don't make plastic boxes, and don't buy the plastic boxes for them to keep the dust off. So that's an upgrade that's coming. All of my stuff is going to be sorted and going into plastic boxes and trays, and I'm going to start addressing some of the things like the Plastic Dutch project that I have started and got part way with, and need to be finished. Of course, this will all be alongside the commission painting and the painting for sale on the Etsy shop. The Etsy shop still hasn't come along very far because I'm waiting for my new bank to sort itself out because of logistics difficulties with paying for the Etsy listing fee. Because my other bank seems to think that anything I pay to Etsy is a fraud. So and I have to keep bringing them up and saying, look, that's not a fraudulent payment. That is a real payment, and I have paid 20p to the company behind Etsy, and there's only so much time I can spend listening to music online, waiting to talk to people to sort something out that shouldn't be a problem. And you'd have thought the first time it was done, it would be cleared and they'd realise that was the sort of payment that you were going to be making. But no, it happens every time. I think my account has got vulnerable to fraud plastered all over it for some reason. So that's going to wait until about the middle of next week when I can actually get the other business account going and start listing. I've got things to photograph, I've got things to list, and expect quite a bit of activity on the Etsy front just as soon as I can get on it without spending an hour item clarifying that I haven't defrauded myself of money. Because as I say, my personal bank is really lovely and really protective, and I feel like a teenager whose parents are being a bit protective and really resents it slightly, but loves them for it. Getting on to the other things I do, and which you could possibly get involved in, I have got a Thursday evening gig at Books and Banter where I run 5th Ed D&D, and we've currently got a bunch of newbie players who are currently around about 3rd level and are getting increasingly out of their depth in an amusing way. We might have a couple of vacancies in that group, and you would be welcome to join. It's an in-person group, so it's a little difficult to have people from out of the immediate area. But if you're within driving distance of the centre of Burton-on-Trent, you are more than welcome. Burton also has fairly good train and rail connections to the rest of the known universe, and if I had the space, I'd put you up overnight if you wanted to stay and game. I believe it's traditional in Burton for people who run gaming operations to do that, but I don't have the space. Barely have the space for me and my piles of junk. Also, aka the shelves of shame. But there's also a Saturday game coming up that I'll be running, also at Books and Banter, probably on a monthly basis, 5th Ed D&D, and I would welcome some more players. It's built around a player who had to unfortunately drop out the Thursday game because congratulations to them, got a better job, but the better job involves working in the evenings on Thursdays, and they can't do it. They can't do the Thursday game anymore. So they don't know it yet, and I don't think they're listening, but they're the protagonist in the other campaign that I'm working on. Again, fifth ed D&D, because it's an easy set of rules to get used to, and a good introduction to the whole role-playing thing, especially if you've got someone who's been running D&D since we won't go on where, but I got my grey hairs from somewhere, and it was mainly dealing with players. Trust me, players are lovely. Players are lovely. Far nicer than wargamers, who are just as fun in their own way. Anyway, I have been going at this for 20 minutes without a pause, and is there anybody out there to ask any questions or to allow me to bounce off the feedback or anything like that? Or am I going to be talking to the void again? Would be nice if we actually had some people in the chat occasionally. You are cordially invited, and I'm not at all fierce unless you really upset me, and I don't think any of you could. Please don't take that as a challenge. People have. But I will continue to go on building my chat, so building the community that I'm building in EvilGinger Miniatures, and around the painting group, where people of all levels and abilities are very welcome, and no one will be chased off by gatekeeping, because I won't gatekeep, and God help anybody else that does, because then the unhappy side of Simon will be coming out and thoroughly demonstrated. What else do we do? I mean, it's very difficult because I've got that much stuff everywhere, and I've only got very few things in this now within arm's reach. But I dug these out when I was painting. You may have seen them because I plastered them on. These are Frostgrave Demons with an alternate paint scheme of my own design, and they are a group which was probably going to turn into a dragon rampant army when I've worked out what I was planning to do with them, called the Army of Brass. And you have sword and shield guys. You have what I originally thought was an officer, but basically he's a guy with a sword and dagger. And you've got two-handed weapon people of various sorts. And some crossbows. And there may very even well be some winged crossbows in the near future. As I say, not quite sure what to do with these, but could very well feature in Rangers with an adaptive stat line, or in Dragon Rampant. I don't think there's enough variety in figures to run to a proper Oathmark or similar game setup. But again, they need an outing, and I've got 20 odd more of them that I'm in process of painting, but they were at very early stages, and then I've got to work out how to turn these in from individual clumps of figures into units and get on with gaming with them, so we can get a bit more fantasy gaming in there. Also planning to do a bit of sharp practice, but I've got plans for demo armies to do sharp practice with. Sharp practice is Napoleonic and horse and musket, and I'm thinking of something that's going to be quick and easy to do with some imaginations, perhaps, where we can have two forces and just play each against each other. Again, small forces, nice base of Books and Banter, probably on the Wednesday, where I'll also be going down to Books and Banter to run Frostgrave demos, and demos will also be done, and games will also be done on Saturday, so people can get stuck into the whole wargaming thing. I'll be providing forces for it. I'm working on multiple warbands, which might go up on which will probably also be going up on the Etsy shop for people to buy. I have an idea for starter warbands. I have an idea for expansions to starter warbands, and I have an idea for basically adding the top end specialist troops to the warband, captains, knights, that sort of thing. So it's all go here, all developments, all improvements, many things to be done, and we'll take it from there. And I think I shall call that for the moment, because, as I say, there's none of you in the chat, and I can't really interact with an empty chat. I'd love to interact with a chat. Also, the beard is probably going to have a little bit of surgery. So if I miss a couple of days, I'll be recovering from the anaesthetic. With that, have a great evening, and I'll see you briefly, at least, online on a Facebook stream tomorrow, and hopefully same time next week. Take care, everybody, and goodbye.